He's out there looking for me, isn't he?
Can you imagine the damage he could do?
I need your help. If dreams disappear, then so will humanity.
You'd feel a hell of a lot better if you just rip into the occasional customer.
You're a clerk, paid to do a job. You can't just do anything you want while you're working.
Hey, you open? No!
Bruce, I don't understand what I just saw.
It's like the gamma released. Someone was already there.
My son is unique, and the world will not tolerate his existence.
What did you do to me?
I improved on nature a million times more powerful.
This Organized Chaos podcast is brought to you by JEMS Art Studio. This podcast is also brought to you by listeners like you. Thank you.
Hello, and welcome to another Organized Chaos podcast. We got some interesting films to talk about today, but we are also not alone. Our friend George is with us today. George, how are you?
I am good.
Right. Bob, how are you doing, man?
I'm doing good. Excited for another threesome. The threesomes are always fun, exciting experience. You never know what's going to happen. What might just pop out of our mouths. You never know. You know.
Yeah. Indeed. So, speaking of things popping out of mouth, let's get to the news.
Well, before we get right into the news, quickly covering, we'll be talking about Sandman, which is part of the reason we invited George, because George is actually familiar with the graphic novel.
Excellent.
Yeah, it's something that's been on my to-read list that I haven't read. I'm sorry.
Slacker.
Yeah, we're both kind of slackers on it. There's a comic shop down the street from me that I could literally call and have it ordered. Just haven't.
It's like the only comic series that I have read. So I don't have a lot of room to talk.
So, I mean, better than us, man. I mean, I was excited when I found a graphic novel reprinting of the old Creep Show from the first movie.
Oh, wow.
Creep Show's a classic.
And I'm damn right I bought it.
haven't read the comics, but I love the TV show. I have the complete series for that.
Yeah, this is just pretty much depicts the entire first film, which I want to find one if there's a graphic novel similar to the second one, because I think the second one is just as good.
Oh.
I'm not sure if either of you have seen it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, I have. Okay. And there's a new TV series out as well.
It's on Shudder, yes.
And interesting enough, they've you know how they've kind of we're going way off topic here, so I'll make it quick.
Yeah, we are.
They based it off of Stephen King stories or and different other authors, it's kind of the same source material as Tales from the Crypt, and I think almost everyone and myself get them confused from time to time.
Yeah, I think I remember hearing something about the Stephen King bit, but yeah, that is interesting. But we are indeed way off topic.
Yeah, so still.
So back to the topic.
What
was your favorite
Bob,
Stephen King story? No.
Favorite Stephen King story?
No. My favorite Stephen King story is, of course, Clerks, which we'll be discussing this podcast. 100% by Stephen King.
I am
100%
a terrifying horror story.
I lean towards Empire Strikes Back as my favorite Stephen King story, personally. But
no, you're way off. You're way off. It's Manos Hands of Fate, hands down.
Oh, how could I forget about Manos? You're right.
There were hands.
You just can't.
Hands down.
Hands down, no pun intended.
Yes.
And
all right,
the master would forbid.
And then our third topic, covering our Stephen King theme, because everything here is by Stephen King, will be 2003's Hulk, which was definitely by Stephen King. He was
also by Stephen
intimately
King, yes.
involved with that one. Don't double check us. Don't.
It was one of his off films. You know, he has those ones that are really, really good and one of those that are not so good.
Yeah, because you see, Dreamcatcher was so good, you just had to like...
Yeah.
Dude, I had forgotten about that one. Why would you bring that up?
How could you forget about the poop little
thing? No. Literal toilet monster.
Maybe we'll talk Stephen King on like in October.
Oh,
yeah.
We definitely got some October stuff to talk about.
There's plenty of Stephen King that we can pick from.
Oh, yeah. No shortage.
We will now be rejoining Bobby with the news. Something we meant to talk about probably should have talked about last week was this, oh my God, Salmon Rushdie stabbing. Somebody stabbed Salmon Rushdie on August 12th, 2022 on my birthday. So immediately I dislike this guy. But yeah, it was a pretty bad stabbing. It wasn't expected for him to be recovered, but it seems like he is recovering. Last I heard, his eye was hit pretty hard. And actually, I think I heard something about they're actually thinking his eye might end up okay now, which is kind of surprising. But we will see. Obviously, I'm not one of the doctors looking over him, so I don't have firsthand knowledge. But yeah, I'm just hoping for his recovery. If you've ever read Satanic Verses or are interested, it's a good book. And essentially, it's a book where the devil's narrator. And because he's from Iran, Salman Rushdie has been a target of lots of attack and hatred simply for writing this book. That honestly is not evil. It just has the devil as a narrator, and that's it. It's just kind of fascinating how much people just throw hate at something without even really understanding it. But anything you guys want to add to this, the Rushdie attack before you head on to the Hamilton story?
It is interesting, and it's like it kind of just shows like what having a very theological based run society, the dangers that could have, you know, if like an entire, sake of argument, an entire state is one particular religion, and they're not exactly welcoming to any other thought or, you know, variant of said religion or belief. And they could just even be hostile like this. And it shows the danger of that as a society, I think.
Oh, absolutely. Theocratic society is not something I want to live in.
No, not at all. Not at all. Even though I believe our founding fathers wrote rules that are written exactly against things like that.
Yeah, I'm sure. Some of the founding...
Like almost verbatim.
Yeah. I mean, some of the founding fathers were pro-religion, but some were very much anti-religion. They all had their flaws, but yes, there are lots of them that are very critical of religion.
Yeah, and there's a lot of them who also feel that, you know, religion and politics shouldn't have any business together at all.
But yeah, let's hope.
These are the same guys that were dumping these are the same guys who were dumping me into an ocean too, just to prove a point.
But speaking a bit of religion, the next story topic, Hamilton. So there was a showing of Hamilton. Well, not a showing. They've been doing performances of Hamilton at a church. I can pull up the church name right now. Of course, it's buried. Where is it? Dor McAllen's Church, and its unauthorized production of Hamilton. And what was that?
That was a speaker. Sorry.
Oh, bad, Bobby. But anyways,
I forgot to turn it off.
They did a reproduction of Hamilton at this church, and it's filled with biblical references as well as anti-LGBTQ rhetoric, which is nice. It's nice. But for the people listening or the people watching, I went ahead and pulled up a clip of this performance. See if you can spot the part that isn't from the original play. And I'll be playing it now.
Pray with me, sir. receive Jesus Christ in your heart right now? Do you not only confess, but repent of all your sin?
Yes.
Do you accept him as your Lord and Savior?
Yes.
Amen. Heavenly Father, I pray for Alexander. I pray that you bring him peace of mind, that you would restore his family and his marriage. In Jesus' mighty name I pray.
All right. So you guys have seen that clip. Could you notice the part that wasn't from the original play? I don't know. Maybe the whole thing. Maybe.
Yeah, maybe all of it.
Yeah. But last I heard... Oh, go ahead, George.
I was going to say, I mean, I'm not sure that the original play was ever recorded, but, I mean...
But, yeah, it's clearly not what Lin-Manuel Miranda ever intended for the play, so obviously he did a cease and desist.
No.
I haven't heard anything past the cease and desist, but to my understanding, if they continue to do the performance, he has then the right to sue them. And
never living shit out of
yeah,
them.
Sue the living shit out of them. That is absolute copyright infringement. It's not something intended. Yeah, it's kind of funny. When I first saw like footage from the performance, I thought maybe it was like some high school doing it. It was like, Lin-Manuel Miranda just let the high school do it. Then I saw what the actual issue was, and I went, oh, yeah, no, you should stop that. But, anything you guys want to bring up on that before we head on to Gary Busey?
Oh. The church never ceases to amaze me.
Yeah. Well.
Oh. Yeah.
Well, it seems like...
Well,
go ahead.
Gary Busey. Yeah, Gary Busey found his way into some trouble. I think this happened the day after we recorded last week.
Yeah.
The first thing.
Yeah, it seems familiar.
And he got himself in trouble afterwards, where, according to Radar, it says that Gary Busey was spotted with his pants down in a public park one day after being charged for sexual assault. So Gary is kind of, things aren't looking really good for him right now.
No,
I believe he was, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, he's definitely had his ups and downs throughout his career. But, yeah, he's definitely got random stories. Yeah, I don't have a whole lot to add, other than, he's definitely a troubled actor.
I'm just reading what had happened. That is, according to photos obtained by Daily Mail, the 78-year-old Point Break actor was seen with his pants down, engaged in a vulgar act. Busey allegedly took out his iPhone, stuck one hand down the front of his pants, fondled himself as he looked around to make sure he was not caught in the act. When he was finished, Busey reportedly left his pants down, pulled out and smoked a cigar before returning to his vehicle 30 minutes later and leaving the Malibu park.
So looking to see if anybody's around, but doing it in public? What?
Yeah. So, yeah, that's...
I think it's safe to say he's not old there.
Yeah, I definitely will agree with that.
Hey, he did some cool stuff in the
80s. He's someone that I recognize, but I'm like, I was trying to place the movies he had been in. It's been a long time.
Yeah.
Lethal Weapon.
Yeah, first Lethal
I'm
Weapon.
seeing that now.
Yeah.
Well, we just saw him in Predator 2 not that long ago.
He was in Predator 2.
Yeah, because all these movies I have not seen in a long time. So I'm like, when you shared the link earlier, I'm like, I recognize him, but don't remember.
Yeah, I don't know. He hasn't done as much recently. You usually see his son now. Is it Jake Busey, I want to say?
It is Jake Busey.
he usually pops up now, kind of playing the similar roles, honestly. Yeah.
Yeah.
The torch has been passed.
Well, anything we want to add to the news before we head on to the Sandman?
No, let's dive into
All
this.
right.
Yeah, let's do
Well,
Sandman.
I'm excited to talk about, though, one thing I want to talk about before we get into the meat and potatoes of this is that I'm kind of annoyed with Netflix's release schedule. If I'd known there'd be 11 episodes, I want to split this up between 3 weeks and not done it over 2. Come on, man. 6 episodes in a week just because I didn't realize there'd be another one? It's evil.
A surprise to be sure, but a welcome
Yeah,
one.
no, like... Okay, so this series is awesome. I thought this was so goddamn cool.
Yes.
Grab me a drink. What were your guys' thoughts?
I enjoyed it as well. Like, I really definitely loved how that it kept expanding on the story as it was going almost. Like everything with Vortex and her brother, and just how the stories kind of almost kept near missing with each other, but then crossing over. And I kind of just dug it, and that made binging it very easy for me.
Yeah. Well, I thought it was interesting because, like, when I was watching it, not familiar with the comic book story, I kind of assumed this would be like one season would be like a comic book arc. But then what I quickly realized was, like, the beginning is this kind of like the intro story, that's one arc. Then you have the 4 episodes with David Thewlis, who, when I was watching it, I thought he was being set up to be the main villain of the whole season.
Yeah.
But, yeah, no. And then you had, like, that one-off story with the Timeless guy, which I loved that one. That one was so good. And then you had another arc wrapping up the Corinthian stuff, and with the cereal convention.
That was great.
Yeah. Those poor people. But yeah, I really loved how this story. I loved the style of it. I know Neil Gaiman was very much involved with the production of the TV series, and I think to his benefit, he's really shown aptitude at show running. Because I don't think he was a showrunner in either of these, but I know he was also involved with Good Omens that came out a year or 2 ago, and that was really good as well.
And American Gods.
Okay, I haven't seen American Gods is the one book from him that I've actually read, but I haven't seen the TV series of that. So,
I'm trying to think. There's been one film adaptation, which is Stardust.
Yes, that was good. I like that.
And the thing with the Neil Gaiman stories is, I think he's been really involved with them, and when they've come out, they've been very, very faithful. And something that I've noticed too is they don't really leave a lot out when they adapt these. They're pretty faithful to the source material, and if anything, they expand them.
Really?
And same thing with the Sandman show. It's a very faithful adaptation, and again, I've read the series at least a couple of times, but there's not a ton they left out. I mean, there have been minor tweaks here and there, but yeah, it's pretty much right off the page. Like, I was shocked. I didn't know what to expect with this. It's been in development hell for the better part of 20-something years, and they've talked about TV shows or movies, and so yeah, it finally happened. I didn't know how they're going to do the narrative. But yeah, what you saw on the show was the first 2 books was season 1, and that new episode that came out was half of book 3. Book 3 is just some short stories.
Okay.
So we might see another episode, kind of like the 11th episode, before they jump into season 2.
If they do the narrative with the cats the whole time, that would be great.
Yeah, the cat thing was
because I actually really loved that first half. I loved that.
I liked both halves.
Yeah,
I think they were both really good. But yeah.
Oh yeah, the second half was really good too.
Yeah.
I'll give some mild spoilers without really spoiling anything.
We spoil the shit out of it in this show, George. Don't worry about it.
Out of everything, even we're about to spoil a movie that is like 93 old.
Yeah.
So.
So if we see another episode, the other two stories they haven't touched is they did a adaptation of a Midsummer's Night Dream.
Really?
Which takes place in the dream world.
Nice.
Yeah. And I think that one won some awards for the comic when that came out. Won several awards.
Wow.
I couldn't name them, but and then there's another story called Facade, which again it's another one-off story. But yeah, I'm ready to rewatch it. It was fantastic. Like I loved everything about it. The cast was great. The music was great. Visuals were amazing. Yeah.
Well, I brought up with Bobby last week, although it'd be interesting to discuss it with you, because something I didn't realize until watching this was that this must have been part of the main DC continuity when it was released in the comic books, because it involves John Constantine, who is a character from main DC books. Meaning this takes place in the well, maybe not Netflix series, but the comic book series takes place in the universe with Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, all that jazz.
So you don't get any of the main DC characters in any of these stories. I knew who Constantine was when reading these, but it did not occur to me that John Constantine in the Sandman novel was the same Constantine that they've been doing other things with. That did not occur to me. Go ahead. I was going to say, there's the character later on in the series named Joanna Constantine, and what's interesting is obviously not to, step on other properties in this first season. They just kind of blended those two characters together.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And just kind of wrote John Constantine out, and it's just going to be a Joanna Constantine. So we should probably expect to see her again. If they're doing 2 books per season, we'll see her again in season 3 would be my guess.
Well, yeah, it definitely strikes me they don't want to hook up to the CW baggage, because they already have Matt Ryan as like the CW Constantine, and they've already linked that to the Lucifer in the Lucifer TV series. So they don't want to add all that baggage to this TV series. So it's on its own, which I get 100%.
Yeah, so Lucifer had his own spin-off comic, and then the TV show is kind of its own thing in that realm. It really has little to do with the Sandman storylines.
Yeah, I don't think it's ever referenced. That being said, you do get characters from the Lucifer TV series that are also from here, mainly Lucifer and Mazikeen. But yeah. Yeah, if you're looking for some sort of direct connection, you're not going to get them here. Which I think it's probably to the benefit, because it allows them a bit more freedom with the characters. I will say Joanna Constantine, the modern version, is essentially John Constantine, just played by Jenna Coleman. Too many J names.
Right.
Clara Oswald.
Yeah, yes. Bobby's favorite Doctor Who companion.
Oh, God, no.
What?
God, no, not my favorite. Not at all.
What?
Far from it, man.
I also learned that Lucien, who's just kind of like his Alfred equivalent.
Yes, yeah.
Was a character borrowed from Swamp Thing.
Oh, I didn't know that. I did not recognize that character.
I didn't know that either. Yeah, I was kind of watching some of the interviews and lead-ups to the show, and that's one of the reasons why he changed the character up a bit for the show, not in terms of like dialogue and character, but in terms of appearance. He didn't want to go with the original appearance of male glasses and kind of like the side slicked hair. He wanted to keep the character but change it up so it wasn't a direct, again, stepping on another property. They're trying to make Sandman very much its own thing.
Yes, you see, I like this series a lot. I enjoyed it thoroughly, but did some gender swap, so therefore it's the worst series ever.
Well, in the some of the characters, I'll go off a list here. Lucifer was always gender neutral.
Oh, okay.
In the comic, which is something that they've kept to the show, it looks like, so far. Desire is supposed to be a androgynous character.
I would say that's pretty faithful to the show.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the only two characters that they really changed was, well, three. Joanna, who's an actual character later.
Yeah.
So they really just kind of shifted her over.
There's that scene in the one where he's with the timeless guy, where they encounter one of Joanna's ancestors, who's also Joanna, and I assume that was a moment in the comic book with actual Joanna. Okay.
Yeah. Lucian, obviously, I explained why Lucian was changed up. Trying to think of any other. John Dee in the comic, they made him look super crazy, like he was almost like corpse-like and kind of zombie-looking in appearance. But a lot of the characters in the show, they kind of gave them more of like a human, real world. Yeah. Which is to be expected for, like, you know, a TV show that takes place in the real world.
I remember David Thewlis looked very thin in the series, and I wonder if that was just something that, like, little like tweaks they were doing to his physical appearance to try to get him closer to that to look in the comic.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like I said, this is a very expanded. From the comic, it's just the material is expanded upon. They've added bits of like humanity to a lot of the characters. I'll just give a few examples. So John Dee, you know, when he hitches the ride, he kills her in the comic because he's just batshit crazy. Yeah. But in the show, you know, he actually has a little bit of affection for her. He gives her the amulet and then he lets her go. So. And another thing too, the Raven in the first couple of episodes, Jessame, that was something that they added. I don't think Matthew appears until the second book.
Oh, really?
But they added him in, yeah. So when Jessame gets shot, you know, you can see him starting to tear up. And in the comics, he's very stoic. He's very emotionless. He does have feelings, but he just doesn't show them. So, I mean, it's already giving you hints that, you know, he is vulnerable. He does feel pain. He does, you know, feel for others. So it's.
No, it's one of the things I liked because, like, throughout most of this series, like the Sandman, Morpheus, Dream, whatever you want to call him, he's very kind of like stoic. He doesn't like have a whole lot of emotions, but every once in a while you get those little like moments of emotion that I really like. I keep on going back to the episode with the timeless guy, but what I like was the ending where he finally re-meets with the guy and he's like, you know, I won't want to keep an old friend waiting after the guy made a big deal about, like, if I see you again, we're friends, right? It was just like, oh my God, he actually does care. Awesome. You know what I mean?
And it is, you know, it's right off the pages of the comic. And even like throughout, you know, the different periods of time where they meet at the end, you know, Death is at the first meeting, and, you know, the dress that she's wearing in the comic with the headdress is exactly what they showed in the TV show. Like, it's awesome that they just translated every single little detail into this show. It's probably one of the most faithful adaptations I've ever seen in a show.
See, I need to actually, like, maybe read some of the Neil Gaiman stuff I've seen, because I feel like the one thing I've read is the one thing I haven't gotten around to seeing.
Which
American
is what?
Gods.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Are they still making American Gods the TV series? Or are they done with that?
I don't think so. I think they're done. And yeah, that was a great series, and I have not seen all of Good Omens. I'm still watching that one.
Oh, the series? That's a short one. But that was good. I really liked that one, but I haven't read it.
And they did a BBC. It was very low budget, but they did a BBC show from Neverwhere, which is, I think, his first novel.
Oh, okay. I was not even aware of that one. He's definitely somebody
good story.
I need to dive more into, because I like all the stuff I see from him.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm digging this series. It's interesting. When I first started watching this, I thought the character Dream would be someone like kind of the issue, because you don't really connect with him. But he gives you these moments where it's like, dude, he does care. So I feel like it works.
I thought the issue would be Jenna Coleman, but she wasn't in the series enough for me to get distracted by her acting.
Well, I think she does a good job. Yeah, I would definitely say Matt Ryan's a more faithful John Constantine, but I thought she was good as well. She's definitely different.
No, she wasn't bad. Wasn't bad. It's funny that you mentioned the DC thing because it didn't even click with me, and it just did when you mentioned it. One of the episodes where we see the little brother as like a superhero version of Sandman running around, and there's the girl who's his mom as his kind of like tech person.
Mm-hmm.
There were like little Justice League superheroes because I saw a Wonder Woman, a Flash, and a Superman.
Didn't they? Yeah.
All just like the little action figures just sitting around that area. And I was just kind of like, he's a kid. Of course he'd have those. Didn't register at all.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. I wonder. I don't think they're going to go into it in the series, but maybe those are action figures of people that actually exist in this universe.
Maybe.
There's some musical rough.
Hopefully it's not the Ezra Miller Flash.
Yeah. It's something that they may not touch on a lot. There's a lot of musical references in the comics, and they can't really get the properties necessarily to do all those. But the diner, the 24-hour diner, is a reference to a Joy Division song called 24 Hours. And the trying to remember in the comic, Donna's girlfriend who hit her, and she was freaking out that she wasn't responding to her texts, brain farting on her name, but that character in the comic was wearing a Joy Division jacket. Yeah, and there's other references to like Duran Duran and other songs of the time throughout the series, but I mean they're probably not gonna elaborate on too much. But
hey,
so there's other little details you can get out of reading the comic. But
we did get some fine young cannibals, and Johnny hates jazz.
That's very true.
That is true.
But yeah, excellent series. If you're on the fence about it, definitely check this out. I mean, we've spoiled bits of it here and there, but obviously we do. It's not a replacement for watching it. If it sounds cool, check it out, guys. I absolutely enjoyed it. I wasn't sure what I'd get into, but I found myself digging it quite a bit. Do you guys have any final thoughts before we head into the next Stephen King book story?
No. Let's.
I'll just say from the comics, my favorite character was Death, and from the TV show, my favorite character is still Death.
Yeah.
Yeah, Death.
Yeah.
Death is good. God, favorite character. Ooh.
I also really like Fiddler's Green.
Yeah, Fiddler's Green.
I really like that character.
Yeah, he's cool.
Like where they're at the convention and he was going into each room, and you see him just kind of putting it together slowly as he's in each room. And the last one just, I need to get out of here. No.
This is bad.
This is very bad.
I don't know. It might be Death. I don't know. I think I kind of really like Sandman for just the moments he gives. Who's the assistant? You brought her up earlier.
Lucian.
I like Lucian a lot.
And Matthew. I love Matthew.
Oh, yeah, Matthew. Yeah, there's just good characters in this. There's good characters.
Yeah.
I guess if you twist my arm, I might go with Lucian, but I like these characters. Definitely. Okay, so are we ready to talk about Stephen King's Clerks?
Yes.
God, this was a horror story. Oh my God, what those people have to go through. It's terrible. He wasn't even supposed to be there today. He was...
No.
How much are these anyway?
So I will go ahead and say I haven't liked a Kevin Smith movie for like 10 years. That being said, we have Clerks 3 coming out. And going back and watching Kevin Smith movies, I'm always a little bit scared that maybe they don't hold up. So I want to say I'm happy to report this one pretty much holds up. I enjoyed it quite a bit.
Oh, yeah.
This was fun.
This one definitely still holds up very well.
It probably holds up the best out of the others, because some of them do have style and humor that's very much of the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
But yeah, agreed. Clerks does hold up pretty well.
Yeah. I would say, like, filmmaker-wise, the worst thing I noticed was that there's lots of moments where you can tell the actors are just hitting their marks. Like, their dialogue delivery is great, but you can tell they're, like, trying to make sure they're standing in the right spots and shit like that. There's little stuff like that I noticed that kind of drove me nuts here. That's my biggest complaint. As for, like, it aging, I'll go ahead and admit I thought, like, the Jay doing the weird gay joke was weird, but I still thought it was funny. But the humor for me has changed. Because now the humor is like, well, Jay, if you want to do that, just do it. Why are you like, no? Why are you like...
Later in the series, though, they kind of make him into a character that could be gay or not gay. He seems very confused with his sexuality.
And it's like, dude, if you want to be bi, be bi. If you're not sure if you're gay, go ahead and try a dick. Do you, man. Do you, man. But yeah, back in the 90s when this came out, I was like, oh god, gay, that's so gross, and I'm glad we've evolved since then. Jesus Christ.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But yeah, that's such a small part of this series overall, or this episode. God, movie. This is a movie.
Season 1, episode 1. Clerks.
Yes. The pilot.
Clerks TV series.
They did have that little mini-series thing.
Yeah, the animated series. I remember enjoying that one. It's been a while since I've seen that one.
Very funny.
Yeah.
Very funny.
Yeah. Well, what really makes this stand out is mainly like the dialogue and the actors. I think all are pretty much on point. The lead actors mainly.
Well, it's interesting to me because Jeff Anderson, who plays Randall, had never acted before, like ever.
Wow.
This was like his
really
first
good.
venture. Yeah. And it's like, really? Because he's kind of a natural.
Yeah.
Like,
He just, like, his delivery. Like, you sometimes encounter actors who just can't handle the way some dialogue's written. Jeff Anderson handles Kevin Smith dialogue beautifully.
Well, I do know this because I have been a fan of Kevin Smith for a long time, and I would watch the movies even with the encores. Or not encores, but commentaries. And I know that in the scene where he's ordering all the adult films, and like that little girl and her mother are there, I know that he had a problem with like doing it at the angle of where you could see the kid, and he's right there. He didn't want to read all that in front of a kid, so instead, what he did is he just filmed Jeff directly, and him doing all of it.
And the kid was just a cut-in shot later.
Yeah, and then they just filmed the kid later as he was making up other titles that weren't adult. Which really, I go like, can I get that cut? Because, I mean, I'm sure there's some hilarious stuff he was just making up.
My favorite scene of his is when he's working the video rental store and the lady comes in, he's just not paying attention to her
at all.
It's like, well, how about these two? Oh, they suck. These are the same two movies. I don't appreciate you.
I don't appreciate your ruse.
Your ruse. Your cunning attempt to trick me.
No, I kind of love how Randall handles the customers. Listen, he is not good advice if you're looking for a way to handle customers. You will get fired so fast.
Yeah, no.
But I kind of love it as someone who's had to deal with difficult customers. His way of just like, I don't give a shit. I love.
Yeah.
I mean, you have Dante as the actual person trying to be like respectful and stuff, and Randall being like, I'm working a shitty job. I don't care.
I don't care. Yeah.
So what did you
think? I
think?
One of my favorite quotes from him is, I'm a firm believer in a ruling class, especially because I rule.
Yeah. So did you appreciate how you need to go to another video store so you can get to a good movie?
Yeah. Yeah, because I have had a job at a shitty video store, and I would much rather rent at a good video store.
Yeah. So what exactly are video stores? I've never seen such a thing.
Well, they're a relic of the past, for one thing. The one I used to work at was a 24-hour store. There was about 6 of them located all throughout Central Ohio. There's one on campus, one out my end of town. I think one on Georgesville Road and one on Bethel, and one on Bryce maybe. I don't know. It has been so long. Yeah, so I've had those types of questions that he has asked, or he got asked about in the video store, and ironically enough, I've had a retail gig, and yeah, I've had people ask me for ice for the coffee.
For what?
Ice for coffee.
Oh. Cool.
Yeah, it's right there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, in case you're wondering, my camera appears to be frozen, but yeah, everything's coming in fine. You guys look fine. Hey, at least I got a shit-eating grin on the freeze. I've done much worse freeze frames.
It could be way worse.
Yeah. Oh, God, my hand got stuck in my nose.
Now, I am excited to see where they're going with the sequel, or the third installment, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
From what I've gathered from the trailers, I think Kevin is just kind of writing an autobiographical story. Jeff, Randall has a heart attack, and then he realizes he wants to do something with his life, so he makes a movie about working at a convenience store.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah.
And they film it at the Quick Stop.
Yeah. Yeah. As far as Kevin Smith stuff, like I said, I haven't liked one of his movies for 10 years. I don't know what was his last movie I liked. It was either Red State or Zack and Mary Make a Porno.
I don't think I've seen any since Clerks 2. Well, no, that's not true. I did watch the Jay and Silent Bob reboot movie.
Yeah.
But that's it.
Yeah, I did not like that one. I don't know. I keep on watching.
No, I didn't really either.
I keep on going back to his movies because he's definitely a guy. Like, he has that podcast, which is a lot of fun. He has lots of great takes on just the whole industry, which are worth checking out. He definitely comes at it with a joy of the whole thing, which I love. And he comes at like a fan too, which I also really appreciate. I love his commentary stuff. I have not seen his commentary tracks though. You talk about watching his commentary tracks. I have not seen any of those.
There's some really funny ones.
Yeah.
There's I can't remember if it's Mallrats or Chasing Amy, or it even might be Dogma. It's one of those three where, I mean, it's not funny now, but I mean, I know at a time I did find it funny. I mean, personally, I don't find it that funny now, but I know there's one where Muse got so messed up during it where he passed out and they even pulled the mic up and you hear him snoring. So, I mean, it's kind of funny in the sense of like, wow, they're having a good laugh at their friend, but also he wasn't in a good way at that point in his life. And I mean, Jay has now turned that around and now he's like way better. He quit using drugs and stuff.
Yeah.
So that's good on him. But I mean, there's also some really funny anecdotes in there where, you'll hear them talk and a lot of it is just, it's Kevin and his friends just having a good time.
Yeah, no. Well, it goes back to like his podcasting stuff. Like when you just see him talking, it's usually more fun than his movies. Honestly, if I were to watch behind the scenes of like Tusk or Yoga Hosers, I'd probably enjoy it quite a bit more than those actual movies. I'm like,
yeah, probably because he'd probably give a lot of it talking in that little sausage outfit.
Yeah, but yeah, I will say
apparently they're doing a. Oh, sorry. I just pulled up IMDb, Bob, because I was like, what has he done since Clerks 2? That was the last one I watched. Well, the Jay and Silent Bob reboot. But there's a Mallrats, Twilight of the Mallrats in pre-production.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I didn't. Well,
yeah, there is a new Mallrats that's in production. I know that he finished the script for that a while ago.
Actually, here's something I might be fun. George, read off the movies he's done since Clerks 2. And I'm pretty sure I've seen them all.
Well, it just so happens I have my IMDb page up here.
What are the odds?
Okay, I'm just going to go over movies. I'll leave out TV shows. Yeah. Although I will say some of the episodes he did for Masters of the Universe Revelation was a lot of fun.
I haven't watched it, but my son has.
It's good. I really enjoyed it. It's like just kind of like an alternate take I won't ruin anything in case you wanted to watch it. So yeah, we have since Clerks 2, Zack and Miri Make a Porno.
That was good. No.
Cop Out.
Oh no.
Red State.
And Red State I like.
No.
But Cop Out no.
Tusk.
Yes.
So George, if
Yoga.
So George, if
I
you ever
enjoyed
decide to
that
go
one
into
as well.
Tusk, I will tell you right now, like the first half's actually really good. But then
Yeah.
then
And
as
then
soon
it
as
just takes a turn.
And the turn is as soon as Johnny Depp pops up on screen. And it's like, oh
no, I'm not talking about that.
Mm.
I'm talking about when Justin Long meets up with the seaman. Then, like, plot narrative, it takes a turn, but also quality as soon as Depp shows up. But the good thing is that Depp is the light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, at least you're getting close to the end. There's some good dialogue in that movie, but he knows dialogue. I'll give him that.
He can write damn good dialogue.
Yeah. And then Yoga Hosers actually takes place in the Tusk universe, so he's got like a Tusk universe going on there.
And I think it also takes place in the Red State universe as well.
Oh, does
Because
it?
the girls appeared in Red State. I think the girls appeared in Red
I don't
State
remember that.
too.
I know.
So I know
Red
his,
State.
like Clerks, Mallrats, Chasing Amy all have what they call like the New Jersey saga or something like that. I'm guessing that
it's like
these other movies that he's done since Clerks 2 are not part of that series, right?
It's actually hit and miss because in Jay and Silent Bob Reboot, they retroactively add Zack and Miri to that universe. So Zack and Miri are technically part of that universe.
Because that was the first one that he was going to make outside of the universe.
Well, actually, the first one he made outside of that universe is Jersey Girl.
That's right. Well, I thought that they made some sort of reference to like a character or something than that, or maybe Jersey Girl was the first one. I don't recall
that. Maybe it's not impossible.
Had a lot of the same actors.
Yeah.
Ben Affleck was in it, and I feel like there was at least another actor that had previously played in Kevin Smith.
Carlin.
George Carlin.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah.
And he did a great job in Jersey Girl, by the way. If you're hesitant on Jersey Girl,
he was.
I actually like Jersey Girl. I don't get the hate, and George Carlin's great in it.
Yeah, George Carlin is definitely one of his best acting roles. Mm-hmm. Is in that.
But
let's see. Is it? Wait, there's a couple other ones. There was one called Hollyweed, which was a TV movie.
Okay, I haven't seen that one.
And Kilroy Was Here was the last one.
Is that a Styx thing?
Horror anthology centered around the phenomenon of the Kilroy Was Here graffiti.
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
I'm intrigued, actually.
Huh.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
But yes, from what I've seen, I've not liked anything he's done since Red State then. And I didn't like Cop Out. I know. Well, Cop Out was interesting.
That's the one where... that's the one with him and Bruce Willis, right?
But he that's like the only movie he's directed that he didn't write. And you can really tell with that one. That feels like a generic fucking cop movie. Harold Faltermeyer does a good soundtrack in it, though. But Clerks is good still. Thank God.
So, one thing about this movie, let's bring this up real quick. The conversation that they were having about independent contractors on the second Death Star. If that was your line of work, how would your own principles outweigh your wallet, George?
I have an answer to that. I don't know if you guys knew this, but I'm like a huge Star Wars nerd.
No, wait, what? You've seen Star
You never
Wars?
would have guessed that.
I didn't know that.
But I've listened to all the commentaries by George Lucas on all of the movies that he did. One of them was, oh God, I think it was, I don't know. It's either Attack of the Clones or Revenge of the Sith when they're talking about the Death Star stuff. And he's like, just to reference Jay and Silent Bob, he's like, they were the Geonosians that built the Death Star. They were insects, so take it or leave it or something like that.
Nice.
Yeah, George Lucas just has that.
Well, yeah, that was the first one. I'm talking about the second one.
Yeah.
Do you think they hired a bunch of Geonosians to do it then, or were
yes.
they? Or
yes, that's what they
did
did.
Vader possibly wipe that planet out immediately after the building of the first one? That way, they couldn't tell anyone about the Death Star.
I'm almost
because that just seems like an Empire-like plan.
I'm almost positive they contracted out the second one.
Oh yeah,
it's like, hey, we know how this was built. Let's just build another one really fast.
Just hire some grunts to do this work.
Maybe they were all clone contractors.
George Lucas didn't get a chance to add in Jedi like a Geonosian running down the hallway when they're on Death Star 2.
Right. But we got dewbacks in the New Hope.
Yeah, he was actually planning to have some more Jar Jar Binks running around the Death Star.
Well, as long as it's Sith Jar Jar, I mean, that's the one payoff I'm still waiting for.
Sith Jar Jar.
We'll get those in the 35th version of the special edition.
Yes.
There's still hope. There is still hope.
There is still hope.
Well, I guess.
How do you think Clerks 2 holds up?
It's been a while since I've seen it, but I remember liking it. I'm grateful a lot of the Kevin Smith stuff I go back to seems to hold up, because I saw Dogma not terribly long ago, and that's, I mean, obviously effects-wise there's issues, but overall it's entertaining.
The one I've recently rewatched outside of this one was Chasing Amy, actually.
Mm-hmm. That's one that concerns me, but.
I mean, aside from the problematic stuff, and I try to look at it more as a story of friendship as opposed to what it is.
Yeah.
It's good on that, because I guess at the end you can tell that Alyssa and Holden still have somewhat of I don't want to say, maybe admiration or at least professional respect at that point. But I mean, yeah, the whole proposal scene still is just as uneasy as it was the first time I watched it.
That proposal was always uneasy. I don't expect that.
I remember watching it the first time, thinking yeah, I was just like, how did you propose? How is this the conclusion you came up with?
Yeah. Yeah.
But I did like oh god, Banky, right?
Yeah.
Gets with and they show it in Silent Bob Strikes Back at the end, and he totally got with.
I don't remember, but yeah, he got with somebody.
Oh god, what is
the Hooper? Hooper was the guy. He
Hooper,
was the one who wrote the book.
Yeah, I liked Hooper.
Yeah, that opening scene with him was still hilarious.
Where he's just like over the top and like, oh wow, he's pretty serious.
Yeah.
And of course the bit about Lando. He's like, well,
yeah.
Like, no, my publisher says I need to sell the image to sell the book.
Yeah. Hooper, yeah.
Who also was one of the gang members in Dogma.
That's right.
Oh,
that
really?
Seems familiar. Yeah. He pops up in a lot of Kevin Smith stuff. Almost like Matt Damon in the early stuff, where it's almost like background stuff, where it's almost blink and you miss him.
Yeah. Well, Matt started doing that all over. Like, there's a bunch of movies that he's just randomly in.
Yeah, well,
not a star or anything, but he's just in the movie.
I think I remember spotting them in Field of Dreams, but like Matt Damon and Ben Affleck are two of the people just sitting in the background in Field of Dreams.
They're two of the kids. Yeah. They're two of the kids who are on the stands. Yeah.
It's just like
They're not.
No,
they're kind of like the two Coreys, but not.
Yeah, well, it's not even. It's not. They have no lines or anything. They're just in the background.
Yeah.
Kevin Costner and James Earl Jones get the lines.
Yeah. And Ray Liotta.
Oh, Ray Liotta was in that scene. Really?
He was in
the
movie.
Yes, he was.
Chasing Amy was, I think, one of my favorite ones.
I know. I remember thinking that was one of my favorite ones, so that scares me to rewatch it. It's been a while. I think maybe if you go into it just accepting that Alyssa is bi and not a lesbian, that might be better.
Yeah.
Well, and I think Kevin Smith kind of.
Oh, he's definitely gone back on that one. I know that there was I want to say a reviewer or somebody who was on Twitter and going through and just kind of was like, wow, this movie, and gave a pretty scathing review about it, and really everything she said was justifiable, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Well, the scene,
and I know like a lot of his fans started coming to his defense in there, and like, oh, you just don't understand the humor, and it kind of got problematic. Somebody tagged him, and she was like, my God, why would you tag him in this? He responded like, look, as for all these idiots who are just saying they don't really know about it because the story didn't come from them, it came from me. And it came from me, who was a very confused and angry and very uneducated 23-year-old about all of this. And he was open about it and said, I only hope that you could accept my apology and know that I have learned and am no longer this.
Well, yeah.
I know
well, there's...
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, George.
I was just going to add that in Chasing Amy, there's the scene, and he kind of addresses this a little bit too. In the LGBT community, there's a lot of stigma against bisexuals because and I've seen it too, where if you admit that you're bisexual, they'll like, well, it's so bizarre, but it's like, well, you're just going through a phase, or, and especially when, a bisexual marries, someone of the opposite sex, they will get a lot of stigma from the community. And it's like, well, I'm still bisexual. It's like, it doesn't make me straight because I married someone of the opposite sex. Mm-hmm. So that scene where Alyssa reveals the name of Holden, like, why are you playing the pronoun game? And then she finally says Holden's name, and like they just kind of give her that look, and she's like, oh, another one bites the dust or something. It's a real thing, and it's really hard for, bisexuals to come out in their own communities. So, I think he addressed that very well in the movie.
Yeah, no, yeah. I think what might save the movie, like I say, I haven't seen it in a while. What might save it is just kind of just knowing that like there's no malice in it, or any ignorance in it is not intended.
No.
None.
Yeah. Yeah. It just came from, as he said it himself, just a misunderstood, and an uneducated person.
Yeah.
But it was also, it was very progressive at the time too. It was help me understand, what this other lifestyle is and how it compares and contrasts to others. And yeah.
Well, I mean, when that came out too, there's like no lesbian representation in movies, like non-existent. So just having a lesbian as a major character, no matter how they might be misused, I mean, that's a step.
Yeah, and if it was always like a role that was played off for like laughs. Like it was a very overly masculine or butch woman who was. Yeah. And again, it was just played for laughs. But like, that sort of representation or misrepresentation has gone on in film and like TV like years before. But even then, it was still like way off base.
Mm-hmm. But
and I mean now, obviously it's getting better, but they also give like the good description of four-way stop in the $100 bill, which I think that's mostly the one part. There's four people standing at the end of a four-way stop. One of them, he says like a male-friendly lesbian, Santa Claus, the Easter Bunny, and a man-hating slur.
Yeah.
And he asked which one's going to get to the center of Banky asked him, who's going to get to the $100 first. And, Holden's like arguing. He says like the man hating slur. It's like, good, now why? He's like, I don't know. And he says, because the other three are figments of your imagination.
That's right.
And,
but I mean,
and I
in
think
defense,
it's like, the stuff like that I feel is just like the stuff that's like,
yeah.
But that's showing Banky being uncomfortable with who he is.
Yeah, that's true.
And we later find out.
That is more a self-report.
So it's
Banky.
It is
awkward. Yeah. Some of these scenes are awkward and uncomfortable to see, but I think they are very much accurate oh God, I just can't talk today.
I know the feeling.
Representations of what goes on between some of these types of conversations and different social groups.
For sure, yeah. And like I said, I just think the fact that it's clear, even watching the movie, you can tell it's like he's not doing it out of malice. If he does anything inconsiderate, he's doing it for just to be funny.
Yeah.
He really comes off as a guy who just wants to be a nice guy, and he comes off as a nice guy. So
But he also has his like arrogant dick moments.
I'm sure.
That's also what makes Banky a very great character in this film.
Mm-hmm.
Play like with Holden or Ben Affleck's character.
So yeah, so we're a while off Clerks, but yeah, Clerks is fun.
Clerks is a lot of fun.
Yeah, I did enjoy this rewatch, and like I said, I was a little not sure, but yeah, it worked out well. Maybe one day we'll have to do some coverage of Chasing Amy, because it definitely seems like we have ideas.
Oh yeah,
but,
yeah.
Yes.
I mean, maybe we could have some fun, invite a special guest, and watch Dogma. Like purposely pick a very overly religious person.
Oh God.
And go, okay, this is the movie we're gonna watch and talk about.
Do we want to touch on Clerks 2?
Well, we'll be talking about Clerks 2 in a week or two. Do you want to jump in on that podcast, George?
Yes.
Sure.
Okay, I will let you know. I'm not. It's on the list. I don't think it's next week, but it's probably the week after.
Okay. Yeah, just let me know.
All right. Are we ready for Hulk?
Sure.
All right.
As ready as I can be.
I know, right? Yeah. So I keep on forgetting about this movie, and this is a fine movie. I don't have strong feelings towards it. I feel like it goes for lots of crazy stuff, and I want to say 75% of the time it does all right, and 25% of the time it's kind of a complete fucking miss.
Yeah, it's I think if the movie were to cut out a lot of the scenes where there's gaps in between each bit of dialogue, because there's a lot of real quiet moments of just them staring at each other, not talking, I really feel it would trim the movie down about 30 minutes.
Maybe. This movie is overlong, by the way. I will say, let me get the positives out of the way, because I definitely want to say the positives. I think Eric Bana is a very good Bruce Banner. I think Jennifer Connelly is a good Betty Ross. And I think Sam Elliott is a phenomenal General Ross. They're like your three lead actors. I think they all do a good job.
Don't forget about Nolte.
Well, coming up on Nolte here. Because that's one thing that doesn't work at all, and it's the villain. Not that Nolte does a bad job. Nolte is essentially just doing this crazy act throughout the whole thing, and he is just giving off creep vibes every moment he's on screen. And there's even times where I don't think he's supposed to be, but he is. Yeah, the whole character of his father and the villain in this are just a huge miss, in my opinion. Jesus Christ. So I guess we kind of have to get into a story to really dive into this. So essentially the father experiments on himself. It seems like it doesn't have much of an effect, but then he passes on this experiment to his son, which seems to have an effect where he, I guess, maybe experiences less pain or something. It's not 100% less clear. But apparently it does allow him to survive a gamma burst, and that turns him into Hulk. Okay. But he's set up as the villain, is like the mad scientist. And usually in a villain, especially in your first chapter, usually in all your chapters, you want the villain to be some sort of dark representation of the hero. And even though we're dealing with a father and son dynamic here, I never get the feeling we're dealing with like any sort of dark representation of Bruce, or Bruce if he chose the wrong path or anything like that. Because the father is doing way too much the heavy lifting in this story. The only thing Bruce does is get hit with the gamma burst. And the father is just this crazy maniac who's experimenting with dogs, and it does not work. He eventually becomes Absorbing Man, essentially.
Well, yeah, and he's also, I mean, the only thing the Hulk also did in this was pretty much pose for trailer shots.
Yeah. Well, I actually thought the CGI for this has aged okay, but
it did, and this is actually something that I thought would age the worst out of all of this. I thought the CGI in this would just be like, kind of horrendous looking almost.
I might need to give it a rewatch because I don't remember being impressed by the CGI transitions in this.
Well,
I think. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Bob.
I was just gonna say the actual CGI I think is actually pretty good, especially for 2003. I do not like the design of Hulk. The only thing I like about the design of Hulk is that they took Eric Bana's face and kind of modeled the face of Hulk off it a little bit, but still
and mixed it with the Jolly Green Giant.
Yes, it just well, this movie really wants to probe the dark psychology of the Hulk, and like the Hulk is out, he's rampaging, he's doing terrible stuff, and they chose like the happiest design you could imagine for him. He just looks so bright green and just. What? Choose a lane.
Well, one thing they did with this that I really liked, and I haven't really seen them do with the Hulk ever again, is like there's a scene where he's already Hulk, and they're shooting at him, and you see it just getting him madder.
Yeah.
And he's just getting bigger.
Yes, I do.
I haven't seen them do that ever again.
Yeah.
And I saw when watching that, I was like, ooh, that's cool.
Yeah, when he's actually getting...
I didn't catch... Yeah, I don't remember that. Yeah, that's awesome.
That's the one thing where you actually see him get bigger and stronger. And they've always said when he gets angrier, he gets stronger. But this is the first time where you really, you see him get bigger. And that's pretty cool. Yeah, so... I've talked a lot about his origin story. What are your guys' thoughts on the origin story?
I mean, in the books and in the comics, he actually Bruce got it from his own testing, right?
I believe so, at least from the original origin. If it's changed, it's not changed till later.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I liked it, and this was definitely something that you could tell this was still around the same time as the Raimi Spider-Man movies because the transitions were like the comic book frame transitions where it would have like a panel come up and the next panel is the next scene, and I enjoyed that. I thought that was a nice touch and a nice take and a great way to tell the story through it, but also get the comic book audience in there, because at the time it was really hard to get the comic book audience in there, and it wasn't as big as it is today. Now,
go ahead.
Yeah, well, I was good. Now, which this brings me up to comparing this as a comic book movie as to what one looks like today. There's a lot that this doesn't do that a lot of the modern ones do, and I kind of like that it missed out on a lot of it. But I guess they kind of did it. A lot of the development with Bruce and Betty, they spent a lot of time on there, but I really didn't feel like they covered any new ground with a lot of it. And all their scenes, it just kind of seemed like they just played it out again for padding.
Yeah.
But it was mostly this wasn't, you were sold on the action with Hulk.
Yeah. Well, I'll say...
And we... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, you brought up two things that... you remind me of two things I definitely want to bring up. One thing is the transitions, where I want to say... most of the time, you got this split screen thing. They're obviously going for a comic panel thing. And I want to say this is definitely one of those things where 75% of the time, I'm on board with. I think it's great. There's this scene where you have that Talbot guy, and you get, a split screen where you see, Talbot looking at Betty and Bruce, who are actually in different rooms. And they're both looking at him kind of angrily, and you get the split screen of all three of them at once. I like that.
Yeah.
You get the Bruce looks at the picture, and it's a picture of just Betty. But then you go to the flashback and you realize that's not the picture he's looking at. But and you get the memory there, and I like that transition. Not as big a fan of how that flashback goes into another flashback. But you have the comic panels, which works most of the time. But there's also these times occasionally where it's literally 2 comic panels of 2 different shots of the exact same event. You're not going to get that in a comic book. You know, maybe if it's a big explosion, but you're not going to get that of like 2 people walking in a hallway. And you get that sometimes in this movie.
Well, I think you'd get it, but only if the 2 people walking down the hallway were like having dialogue, you know, moving the story forward.
Yeah, yeah.
Like if it was like, I don't know, Batman and Gordon and Batman walking down the halls of Arkham. That might be the only time we'll get like an alternative one. I don't know if Joker's hiding up or somebody's in this hall.
Yeah.
We'd get it from that perspective, but that's about it.
Yeah.
Maybe just for a little box.
You know, and I think the panel thing actually works really well for the phone calls, obviously, because then you just do a split screen, and that'd be just like a comic book panel, and then you just have the word bubbles in between them. You know, stuff like that works. For the most part, that works. And just when it doesn't, it's like, oh, why do you do that? No, you just add a whole bunch of extra work to something that should have been a lot simpler. Like I said, and what was the other thing? Oh, the soundtrack. This is so Danny Elfman in between Spider-Man and Spider-Man 2. Just intensely so. Like, this sounds so much like Spider-Man's soundtrack. Oh my god. You can tell
they were going for the cinematic universe before there was a cinematic universe to go after.
Well, this was an early movie produced by Kevin Feige, so
yeah,
he did a couple. Like I think he did this. I think he worked on the first Spider-Man, but was uncredited. But he did this. He got credit on this. He got credit for Daredevil. He got credit for Spider-Man 2.
Elektra,
probably, yeah. Not necessarily the best ones, but he's getting the experience he needs to eventually build what we will now know as the MCU.
Well, yeah, he was learning what worked and what didn't work.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and yeah, as far as Hulk, it's a movie. I don't think I'm gonna watch it again anytime soon. But yeah, this is a movie I probably liked a lot more when it came out, simply because there's not like this was an earlier comic book movie, and it was during the period where they're just starting to get good, and this was fine, and a fine comic book movie gets elevated a step or two, in my opinion, when there's not that many good comic book movies. And now it just feels like Jesus. There's like dozens of better ones.
I think it should be brought up too of the director of this movie.
Yes, Ang Lee. Very talented
Ang
director.
Lee.
Not perfect track record, but Jesus, he's a talented guy.
Yeah, he is.
Crouching Tiger, Hidden
This is
Dragon.
not his best work.
Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon is probably still my favorite by him. Although he did Life of Pi. That was a good one too. It's been a while since I've seen that, but yeah. Georgia, any memories of Hulk you want to add in?
This might be like a different conversation with like DC stuff, but I feel like they reboot their movies a little too frequently. And this one came out, 2002, 2003?
Yeah. 2003, yeah.
I remember watching it, and then just a few years later, they had done a completely different Hulk movie with, Edward Norton or something like that? Yeah. And then, since then, of course, we've had the Avengers, and they've been doing this with, Spider-Man and stuff, too, where we've had 3 different Spider-Mans, and it's just a short amount of time, and you don't even get started on how many people have played Batman in the past 20 years. So it's like, I don't know. And I feel like, a lot of these movies, I'll watch them when they come out, but I get a little fuzzy on it sometimes.
Well, I was going to say, to their credit, they've been rebooting this a lot less with the MCU, because it seems like once they're in the MCU, that's about it. Will they reboot the MCU?
Then they're,
probably at some point, but they haven't yet, thankfully. I kind of prefer them to evolve and do, I know everybody's blown up because they're going for the newer characters that are less popular, but I kind of prefer them to explore other characters as well. I don't need 50 billion Iron Man movies. I don't need...
That's fair.
But yeah, there's something to be said for the less reboots. Although, because they've rebooted Spider-Man so much, it did give us No Way Home, which was pretty fun. Have you seen that one yet, George? Okay.
Yeah, I think I've seen all of them.
Yeah, No Way Home was fun. But yeah, they need to do Batman No Way Home now. CGI Adam West in there.
I did see the Batman finally.
Oh yeah, that's a.
What'd you think of it?
It was all right.
No,
it was a lot better than I was expecting it to be.
It's really good. It's also really overlong.
Yeah, that was.
It was a bit long.
It is.
It
was a bit long.
It could have been 20 minutes shorter, but no, I enjoyed it, and I had my doubts about help me out.
Robert Pattinson.
Twilight actor.
Paul Dano.
Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, Robert Pattinson.
And he did just fine. I kind of liked him as Batman, and they just stuck with kind of like the gritty aesthetic, which made it kind of unique, I think. Well, the Christopher Nolan ones had more of like a realism, and this one they kind of went like more of like just a grungy, gritty kind of style, which I think was really cool. I enjoyed
feel like
it.
that's going to be a bit more accurate for like your darker Batman's comic book stories too, because Batman the comic book I don't think it was ever realistic like the Nolan ones. There's always a bit of wonkiness going on there.
Well, sure, as such as that goes with the just being a comic strip. Yeah.
Well, I believe this one, or the Batman, was mostly based off of the Long Halloween.
Seems familiar. I've read that.
Or maybe yeah, and I really enjoyed it. And the moment that I knew I'm not going to be watching a normal Batman movie is in that opening scene where it's like you could tell like binoculars are looking in at a room. And I'm just like,
okay.
Okay. And then you see the shot inside, and then the mayor walks past, and you see the outline with the glasses. And at that point, I went, "Oh yeah, this is going to be a wild ride. I'm all right with this." And I've been a fan of Paul Dano's for a while, and I really enjoyed him in this. Like, I kind of like how he went over the top with it and knocked it out of the park.
See, as someone who's not as big on Paul Dano, I was fairly confident he could pull this one off, because I feel like all his movies, he's got like a creepy undertone. So just having him just being able to really explore that and do the full villain mode, I thought was great.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it.
But is there anything we want to add to Hulk? Because I feel like I've kind of said
this did have a cameo of, I think, Bill Bixby.
No, Bill Bixby had passed, but Lou Ferrigno and Stan Lee had a brief cameo.
No, I thought they did the CGI in the water at the end.
Oh, did they do something where they CGI?
No, that was his dad. Oh, okay. That was. I think it was him. I was looking at it a few times.
Bill Bixby, in my opinion, is the second best action Bruce Banner, in case you're wondering.
But yeah, it had Lou and Stan Lee both as security.
Yeah, walking out. Mistaken. Yes. Oh, random fact I just learned. Do you want to know what Stan Lee's all-time favorite cameo in these movies was? Avengers: Age of Ultron. Do you want to know why?
Tony Stank.
No, it's because he had two shots. Because that's where he plays the soldier, and then he gets the line, and then he gets carried away, and then he was like, I got two shots in that one. I like that one.
I'd say my personal favorite is probably from one that's outside of the MCU, but one of the worst movies made outside of the MCU.
Ooh. Okay, you got me.
Well, think. I've given you hints. Okay, I could give it away. What's the one franchise that they have decimated on screen?
Fantastic Four?
Yeah. It was from Rise of Silver Surfer at the beginning, where they're going up and they're at the guest list.
Oh, yeah.
He's like, Stan Lee. The guy's like, nice try, buddy. Get into the line. No, really, Stan Lee. Genuine laugh out of that one. The rest of it's
I don't know. I have to say Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. I love how they kind of indicate that he's all the same person, and he's like a spy for the Watchers all over the universes.
Yeah, I have so many more stories to tell. Yeah, that one is definitely my favorite quote in MCU. That is him.
Yeah, that was awesome. But yeah, Hulk is... I guess if you're a hardcore Hulk fan, you can check this out. But yeah.
You'll probably like most people feel that the MCU has treated the Hulk.
But yeah, no. Well, I have my feelings towards those people.
Well, yeah. These are also the same people who are, in an uproar over She-Hulk because,
Well, they're upset because we no longer have Rage Hulk, and it's like, yes, he's developed and changed. How dare he?
Yeah, I mean, how...
Yeah. Bastards. But, all right. So, I don't have next week on here yet. Next week is going to be...
I think I got it here.
Loaded.
I got it here.
Okay, we got Jessica Jones, episodes 10 through 13, The Incredible Hulk, and Samaritan. I guess, have you guys seen the first episode of She-Hulk?
Not yet.
Well, let's do brief thoughts. I liked it.
I have not watched it.
Well, no spoilers here, but yeah, I liked it. I definitely want to see episode 2 afterwards, though.
It was fine.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun.
It's lots of setup.
I mean, it's nothing that you have to really put a lot of thought into. But I am interested in seeing more.
I do think it's interesting because I actually know where the character of She-Hulk is headed into, and I think lots of people don't, and that's why they're getting the wrong impression of the type of series this is. Because this is going to be a very lightweight series. I don't even know if you know this, George, but She-Hulk was the character to start breaking the fourth wall in Marvel before Deadpool. So
okay.
That's why she does it a couple times in the show. But what? Yeah, we had Jessica Jones, Incredible Hulk. Oh yeah, and that Amazon movie Samaritans should be out next week too. I'm interested to check that out. Sylvester Stallone as a superhero.
Superhero Sly Stone. Yeah. I'm here for it.
We'll see how that turns out. Little bit I've seen looks cool. So, I guess until then, anything you guys want to add?
No, I don't think so.
Until then, the podcast is, I don't know a closing. I guess just freeze frame. I'm so much better at this freeze frame. The secret, guys, is you just have your camera crap out in the middle of the recording. I want to go ahead and add some audio credits at the end here. The theme music you're hearing at the beginning and end of this podcast was written and performed by George Johnson, a very good friend of mine. And my current Patreons are Fel Martins, David Lara, and Lindsay Pankhurst. If you'd like to become a patron, go ahead and follow the link down below. Anything you can provide would be incredibly helpful to this channel. We're barely limping by right now. I'd love to make this my full-time job. I'm miles away from that right now. So any help you could provide, just $1 a month would be amazing. You know you want to. All your friends are doing it.